Hello, my lovelies. I'm back. Ooh.
Okay, so I'm just gonna stop this here because the intro was just a mess.
Ooh, do I have something on my camera?
I see a little specky.
Let's go back. Start over.
What?
Now we're back. So I'm just gonna summarize it for you.
Damn, it feels good to be a gangster.
In the how-to series, I have gone into everything when it comes to my videos. I started with equipment and continued with editing tips. But now it's time to end the series on how to color grade your videos. Now, my color grading skills have been questionable to say the least. It took a couple of oversaturated videos and a couple of yellow tinted videos for me to figure out what I like and what system can get the results I want. I still have a long ways to go, but here is how I color grade my YouTube videos as of 2024. I use DaVinci Resolve to color grade my videos, and DaVinci Resolve uses a node-based system. A node-based system can get very complicated. I mean, look at how crazy this Cineprint 16 power grade is. However, my process is a little simpler because at times I could be a very simplistic person. I start with S-Log3 footage, which on a Sony camera is PP8 or picture profile 8, and you may be asking, what is a picture profile? A picture profile is used to change certain characteristics of your footage, like the contrast, the color, and the brightness of your video. When you look at S-Log3 footage, it's very washed out, flat compared to auto footage or just footage with no picture mode. Sony has 10 picture modes, and you could choose whatever works for you. I personally chose S-Log3. Now that we finally have our S-Log footage, let's just start with color correction. This is just something that I filmed this morning because the sun was looking amazing this morning in my room, so I wanted to record some B-roll footage for any future videos that I have. This footage is S-Log3, and that's what we're gonna start with. I'm gonna start with color correcting. So I add 3 nodes to this, so I'm just gonna add 3 serial nodes. I lied, it's way more than that for color correction. So first we're gonna start with the CST node, and for that we're gonna go into effects. I'm gonna get color space transformation, add it. I usually use Rec 709, S-Log3, and then the Sony S-Gamut 3 Cine. But even if you could see with this, look, it already added so much colors. The colors blend in, they're smooth, they're not oversaturated. They honestly look great. The next thing that I'm going to go into is exposure. Basically, exposure is just how bright your footage is. I tend to like my footage to be in between 768 and 896. Anything above 896 I find to be way too bright. But for this exposure, you mess with multiple things. Offset is basically gonna just correct the exposure of the overall footage. I don't mess with offset first. I actually go into the curve, and I'm gonna do a basic S curve. Since I'm in color correction, I don't feel the need to do any crazy curves right now. I'm just gonna do S curve. I didn't really do much. I just brought it down a little bit, evened out some of the shadows. I know I deepened it a lot, but I'm gonna go into offset and bring up the exposure a little bit. I want it to be bright, but I also don't want it to be so overexposed that it looks like there's a film on it. Let's bring the offset down a bit. I'm gonna go into white balance. I know you could mess with white balance, which a lot of times that's the temp and the tint. I like doing my white balance method in a different way, and that's with chromatic adaptation. And I'm just gonna go to color temp. So for the top one, which is the source illuminant, the more to the left it is, the more blue it is, the more to the right it is, the more yellow it is. For tint, the more to the left, the more red it is, the more to the right, the more green it is. I tend to move this bad boy a little bit to the right. I just want to even out the yellow a bit, which is when I start messing with the tint. A lot of times I just go to the extremes, what's like the darkest yellow I could see, and I stop when I feel like it has the warmth that I want without the overwhelming yellow. I still think that's a little too yellow. I'm actually gonna cool it down a bit. I'm good with that. Let me mess with the target illuminant. It's kind of like the opposite of the first one, but as you can see, like if you look on here, there's a lot of red in this image. Even it out a bit with the green, and now I'm gonna go to my saturation and contrast node. I have a very colorful room, so it's very easy for me to oversaturate. I tend to not go over 75, 80 if my footage is underexposed, because I tend to have to increase it. Let's do 75 for now and see how that looks. It looks a little oversaturated for my liking, so I'm gonna bring it down to 70. 65 looks a little bit better to me. I look at brighter like neon colors. Like for example, this is like NyQuil that I have in my room. You could see that it's very, very saturated, almost like neon looking. So I don't want to increase the saturation too high, because even let me like increase it to 100 and see, like there's multiple things that are bright neon in my footage, and that will be the first thing that kind of tells you that your footage is oversaturated. So contrast is basically just the range from the brightest and the darkest parts of your footage. So as you can see, like my contrast is all the way up. You could see the brightest parts of the image, but you could also see the darkest parts. I don't like to increase my contrast over 1.25. I think 1.1 would be good. Yeah, I like 1.1 a lot more. So this is before, this is after. The next thing that I'm gonna go into are LUTs. I have so many LUTs and I have no idea what to do with them. The LUT that I tend to like using is a Black Magic LUT. It's this 4K film LUT. It makes all my footage look so pretty. So this is the key output, go to gain, and that's how you lessen LUTs or decrease LUTs. As you can see, the footage is very yellow. I like warmth. I don't like yellow tint. I used to, I don't anymore. Don't judge me. I'm gonna bring down basically like the opacity of it. As you can see, this is 0. This is what my footage looked like before. This is when the LUT is fully on. I'm gonna bring it down a bit. Let's bring it down to, I had it at 0.6 and I really like that. And I'll just bring it down to that, and that's what we have for color correction. And I'm just gonna turn this into a compound node. And there we go. That's the basic color correction. Let's go into the primary color grade. Now, color grading is very complex. Get rid of some of the complexity. You have to understand color theory just a little teeny bit. Color theory is very complex. Complex for you, maybe. Anyways, here's a quick summary from the summary queen herself.
Damn, it feels good to be a gangster.
Color theory, in short, is how colors work together. This may seem simple, but there are many more colors than the colors of the rainbow, and there's even more color schemes. And each of those color schemes can evoke a completely different emotion. I personally use a triadic color scheme that includes blue, green, orange, yellow, and violet red. Now let's get back to the video. I like a warm tone footage. Yeah, I'm gonna show you how I do that. So I actually watched a video. This person said that if you want an overall look for your footage, you should first start with midtones when you're color grading. And ever since I heard that, I have continued to use that method time and time again. I tend to go for yellow, orange type midtones. So let me just go into that. I don't want the footage to be red. I want it to be more of an orange yellow. I go to the extremes and then I start bringing it down. Warmed it up just a little bit. Colors are evening out quite a bit right now. Now that I've messed with the midtones, I tend to go to the shadows next. The shadows are the blacks of the footage or the darkest parts of the footage. I tend to like messing with that before I go into the brighter parts of my footage. I did like yellowish orange, so I'm probably gonna do like a blue green. I don't know what type of look I'm going for yet. When it comes to color grading, I sometimes don't like following a look. I kind of go based off of how I feel when I look at the footage. Again, since I did a yellowish orange, I'm gonna probably lean towards the blue green. So this is without color grading, this is with it. I'm gonna leave it at this for now. I could always go back, that's the best part. I'm now going to go into the highlights. The highlights are the whites or the brightest parts of your footage. And sometimes some people will just be like, oh, I like warmer tones and I want the bright areas to be more yellow. I'm not gonna do that. That's just gonna add a yellow tint and I don't like that. I used to do that. That was a mistake that I made. If you add too much yellow to your highlights, let me see if I could show an example. It causes like the footage to look dull. This is yellow, but it looks grayed out and washed out, which is so weird. The witchcraft of color theory. You would have been burned at the stake if you explained this to somebody in the 1800s. I don't make my highlights complementary to just my midtones. I make them also complementary to my shadows, which means I have to do a little bit of a mix of a red violet.
Violet? You're turning violet!
But I'm gonna bring it down. See, sometimes I don't like doing the extremes. Like you see, it looks way too green. There's way too much red in the highlights. So instead, I'm gonna actually just avoid the red altogether. This is when I start messing with the offset a bit. I mess with the offset when I feel like there's too much of a color or too little. I'm not messing with the highlights right now. I have to go into the complementary color of red just to bring it down a bit, which would be green. I'm starting to question if I really really want to mess with the highlights. I don't always follow like the same rules every time I do the footage. I look, see what I like. Yeah, I don't really need to add that much red to the footage. I'm actually gonna go back into my compound node and I'm going to bring down the offset or the exposure just a little bit. This is where we're at now. This was before. This is after. I am now ready to add a film look. This is like my add a little bit of spice, like my little salt, pepper shaker, all that stuff. A little adobo, whatever you add. This is used a lot in my B-roll footage. There's 3 parts. One is film grain, the other is halation, and the other is a vignette. I am first going to start with the easiest one, which is film grain. I have the paid version of DaVinci Resolve, which means that I have film grain. Don't worry, you don't need to get the paid version of DaVinci Resolve. There are so many film overlays. In my last video, I also included some of those in some of those free packs that I have. So go to part 2. I'm just gonna add film grain 2, and I usually like 35 mm 200T, and you could change it up however you want. Like, look at how much you could change. I tend not to change too much because I still am new to this and I struggle. I either overdo it or not add enough. I'm going to add the next node, which is going to be halation. I love adding this to my footage because I feel like, especially in oversaturated footage and having an obvious light source like right here in this corner, it looks really good. I'm not gonna lie. Easy to overdo it once again. It messes with the brightest parts of the footage. Honestly, I don't have any rhyme or reason for how I do it. I'm just gonna bring it down a bit because I felt like it brightened up my footage a lot. You could also mess with like the normalization. So when you like bring the normalization down, it makes it less normal looking. I guess that's the way I look at it. I'm just gonna bring the normalization down a bit just so I could actually have that bleeding effect. I think this is a good point. So this is before, this is after. I think this is good. I like the way this looks. We're almost done. This is the last step. I don't always do this step. I pick and choose. Most of the time if I want the film look, sometimes I'll literally just stop at film grain. I think that's enough. We are not stopping there. We're adding a vignette. I hope I'm saying that word right. What I'm gonna do is go to window, add the circle, turn it into a nice little oval, just so I could focus a little bit more on the base that's right here. But as you can see, when you open it, it's just very extreme. I don't like that. I'm just gonna mess with it a little bit more. I just wanted to bring it down a little, but what you do is go onto these little pink dots and you just spread them out. I tend to spread them out all the way. I'm gonna be honest with you. It's what I do. It's what I do. No, that looks dope. So this is before and this is after. I like it. It looks good. Okay, lovelies, that is all. I hope you guys learned a lot and I hope this motivates some of you to start your channel and start your little creative career. I hope I did that for at least one person. I hope you guys enjoyed and learned a lot, and I will see you next time. Bye, my lovelies. Done.